could there be a more hotly anticipated movie than Star Wars The Last Jedi? I mean, probably The Force Awakens. People, they were really excited for that one. Also, definitely The Empire Strikes Back when that came out. And also Return of the Jedi in 1983, obviously, because, there was that cliffhanger of Luke Skywalker finding out that Darth Vader was his father and Han being frozen in carbonite. You gotta know what happens next. But after that, then it's The Last Jedi. But I guess before that, you'd have to go The Phantom Menace because there hadn't been a Star Wars film in over 15 years. And this is the promise of a narrative following the dark side descent of Anakin Skywalker. Then probably not Attack of the Clones because people didn't really like The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones looked shit and was shit. But Revenge of the Sith, boy, people were psyched about that. I mean, the return of Darth Vader, you kidding me? Who wasn't on board? Also, if you go outside of the Star Wars franchise in terms of anticipation, you could look at films like Indiana Jones 4. Plus, people seem to be real jazzed about Infinity War, The Dark Knight Rises. That's probably another good example. Those final 2 Harry Potter films. Oh yeah, remember those? People were salivating about getting to see that. And definitely The Cursed Child when that inevitably gets announced. I don't really remember, but I'm sure The Godfather 3 must have had audiences buzzing. What the hell am I doing? Right, so Star Wars The Last Jedi. Heads up. There won't be spoilers in this review, but this is a film I'd recommend going into completely cold, especially if you're a Star Wars fan. Realistically, look, you're probably going to see it anyways, so why bother with this or any other review? For everyone else still hanging around, this film picks up directly after the events of The Force Awakens. I half expected the crawl to read, Star Wars The Last Jedi. Everything in the previous movie that chronologically just happened. Han Solo got skewered, Finn got lightsabered up the back, Rey got good at the Force for some reason, and Luke said and did nothing. Anyways, let's just start, you get it. What we open on is, though, a galaxy in chaos. The First Order having destroyed the governmental systems that were put in place after Return of the Jedi. And this returned the galaxy to pretty much the status quo of what was going on in the original trilogy. So the fate of the galaxy, it's very much uncertain. It's anyone's game. Plus the Jedi Order is up shit creek, we already knew that. The Resistance, although having just won a major victory, is still very much a group of ragtag fighters, and the destiny of one Rey Akbar is very much open-ended. Oh no, I spoiled something! I mean, obviously not really, she's not Rey Akbar. I mean, I guess that spoils the fact that she's not Admiral Akbar's daughter, but if you had money on that, well, let's just say you lost that money and you're an idiot. The Last Jedi does one thing really well. You know what? It does a bunch of things really well, but namely it takes existing characters and lore and moves them in directions that you wouldn't necessarily expect from a film like this. Clearly Disney and Lucasfilm have been experiencing some conflict regarding their choices for directors. Who knows what way the Han Solo movie that nobody cares about is going to go after they've reshot almost the entire thing, allegedly. And Rogue One was assembled in such a way that I felt nothing when every single character experienced horrible, painful deaths. Spoiler alert for Rogue One. This one very much feels like Rian Johnson's vision, and that he was given a stack of free reign with the canon in this universe. Things that I don't particularly like about the prequels, story-wise, this film manages to deal with in a way that made me go, yeah, somebody finally said it. I mean, a lot of people have said it outside of Star Wars, but somebody said it in a Star Wars movie. The whole film feels like a cleanse from the Star Wars of old into brand new and exciting territory. And I don't mean in what's to come, I mean things that unfold in this very movie. The performances are great from both the new and returning cast. We experience the growth of characters, the most development given to Rey and Poe Dameron, oddly enough, as he struggles to come into his own as more than just a hotshot pilot. Adam Driver as Kylo Ren being great is also a given. The conflict in that character very much carries over and he handles it perfectly, even managing to pull off wearing weirdly high pants. That's not a joke. And Mark Hamill as an embittered Luke Skywalker is incredible. It's definitely a case of, I didn't expect the character to go the way that he does, but the payoff is immensely satisfying. This film in general, though, is filled with satisfying moments, as things that you wouldn't expect to be touched upon in the second film in a trilogy are. Questions are answered, which is great, I guess. I mean, not every question, but by the end it feels like it doesn't even really matter, and I mean that in a positive way. Getting back to performances, though, Carrie Fisher, great. I really hate saying this, but I feel like her acting in The Force Awakens was a bit stale. I don't really think, though, that's through fault of her own. She was more of a writer than she was an actor, but she is really terrific in this. It's a great final performance. And the new additions like Vice Admiral Holdo and Rose play really well. The use of the Force is also expanded in unexpected ways that for the most part is in keeping with what's come before, but there's also moments of, hey, I didn't know the Force was capable of that. And if you're after lightsaber fights, this film's got 'em. But the way that they're done is unique to how we've seen them before. If you didn't enjoy the relentless spinning and flipping that goes on forever in Revenge of the Sith, this might be right up your alley. If I had complaints, because you gotta put in complaints in a review. No film is perfect. Everybody says so. Except the movie Sunshine. It's a good film. You should watch it. There were moments in the second act where there's a sense of, where is this going? What is the point of all this? And in the midst of that, there's a very unconventional and unconvincing chase sequence that felt very prequel era CGI. Also, I'd say that not all the separate adventures are equal. There's definitely a few moments where I thought, hey, can we just more Luke and Rey stuff, please? And look, if I'm being honest, it's probably too long. I mean, I could watch Star Wars films forever, but it does feel a bit overstuffed at times. Also, there's some puppeteering that, look, it's weird. I'll leave it at that, but you'll know it when you see it. That being said, there is a tipping point in this film where everything comes together and we get some of the most satisfying action sequences from Star Wars history. But they're not just satisfying because, hey, this all looks really great. They're satisfying because I like all of these characters old and new. There's also some nice callbacks with the Millennium Falcon chase sequence, with music ripped right from A New Hope. But there's also a bunch of new stuff that obviously I'm not going to spoil here. But they do manage to take things established in this universe and put them to use in interesting ways. And the way they do that, it's definitely less, hey, nudge nudge, wink wink, the way that things were in The Force Awakens, and especially Rogue One. Overall, what I think I really loved is that I think the core messages of the film concerning hope, where you're from, what you're capable of, who is really profiting from war, it's all on point in a way that Star Wars hasn't really done before. And I know the TV shows and the newer movies have attempted this, but none have pulled it off quite as successfully as The Last Jedi. Right, now often people want to know, how does the latest Star Wars film measure up in relation to the previous entries in the series? The thing is, that's really an impossible task. I've literally just come from the movie as I'm recording this, and objectively, it's impossible to accurately place The Last Jedi, seeing as it's a film that I've only seen once, compared to, say, Rogue One, which I think I've seen also once, maybe I saw it twice, I don't... Okay, I guess a better example of that is Empire Strikes Back, which I've seen multiple times over decades. So yeah, I don't really think it's fair to do this. Just kidding, it's Star Wars ranking time, baby! Yeah! Right, here's my current list before I slot in The Last Jedi. Coming in dead last is Attack of the Clones. This is a bad and boring film with all-round dull performances and more green screen than any film from that era should have been comfortable using. Next up, Phantom Menace. It's not very good, but it's better than the Clones one. Then we got Revenge of the Sith. It's fine, I guess. I mean, by comparison, it's better than the other prequels, but it's certainly not great. Then Rogue One, a film that I think last year I put on par with Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, but I've thought about it, and it's slightly below that because the character development suffers, but that final act, incredible! It might actually be the best space battle in all of Star Wars. Then we got Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, both solid entries, I feel. Jedi, though, sags in the middle, and The Force Awakens, I like that movie quite a bit, but it does rely a little too heavy on what came before it, which I also understand because, it's kicking off the new saga or whatever, but still, this is where it is. These last two are pretty obvious, but then it goes A New Hope, and then Empire Strikes Back. Now, as for The Last Jedi, as for the moment, as of right now, and this will almost certainly change, but it goes right here. Now, having just come out of it, this is likely to change, but this is a Star Wars film that you can enjoy on the surface. You got your space battles, you got your pew 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 lasers, lightsaber fights, heroic moments and cackling villains, but there's more to this film than just that. I'm really glad that Rian Johnson will be kicking off his own trilogy. I mean, it kind of sucks that he's not doing episode 9. J.J. Abrams has a hell of a job with that film, for reasons that I will explore on my podcast, The Weekly Planet, linked below. That episode is out Monday. But this is the best Star Wars film since The Empire Strikes Back. For me, at least. It's satisfying in a way that, yeah, things are obviously left open for a third film. But for right now, I'm good. Without getting into what plot points are resolved and what plot points aren't, this is a Star Wars film that stands on its own. I mean, if you haven't watched a Star Wars film, this is going to be confusing as all hell. It does absolutely not stand on its own in that sense. But if you like Star Wars, yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. I'd love to know your thoughts though on Star Wars The Last Jedi if you've seen it. And actually, just your rankings of the Star Wars films in general. If you want to include the animated Clone Wars movie and the Ewok ones, you know what? Go for it. That's fine. And if you love or have a passing interest in Star Wars, there's a bunch of videos on my channel already or up very soon that you might be keen on, including a Last Jedi Easter egg video this weekend, and more Star Wars Caravan of Garbage stuff. The show where we look at a good or really crap thing. There's 3 video game ones up already, spanning the original saga, a comic episode coming up next week, and then a very special Christmas Day surprise, which I dare not spoil here. Also, there's videos here every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Subscribe for any of that if you want. And like I said, this Monday on my podcast, The Weekly Planet, we're going right in depth into The Last Jedi. That's linked below along with everything else. But thanks for watching this. I appreciate it. Take care.